Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. You all know that I like to look at distros that are perhaps not used by the majority of Linux users, such as Slackware, and to look at some fairly obscure operating systems as well, such as Haiku or React OS, which I've covered in my last few videos. I'm also, though, a big fan of some of the mainstream distros, which I think sometimes I don't pay enough attention to. So I'm going to rectify that today by looking at an old favourite, MX Linux. I'll see you after the intro. Right, so welcome back. So a bit of an unexpected video today. Didn't expect to do one because we're in the middle of biking season, and as you know, I'm quite a keen biker. So I sort of paused the channel a little bit for 3 or 4 months while we've got some good weather. But I found myself without a bike this weekend. I'll explain why at the end of this video. And I thought I'd take the opportunity to look at an old favourite, MX Linux. Now, it's been a while since I've looked at MX, but I've always liked it. I do like Debian-based distros. I've used Debian quite a lot. I use it for a server, for my website, and it's rock solid, and I've always had a lot of time for Debian. Despite the fact that I've more or less gone 100% Slackware now, which is another distro that I'm finding just wonderful. I won't do Slackware videos every week because I'm aware there are only so many people who are interested in that. But nevertheless, this is where I find myself at the moment. But anyway, back to MX. It has quite deep roots that hark all the way back to Mepis Linux, or Simply Mepis, which I used, 17, 18 years ago. And it was always a great Debian-based distro. If you struggle to get something installed on your hardware, you could pretty much guarantee that if it was possible, Mepis was going to install. And it had some custom tools that just made life so easy. Back in the day when wireless networking was very much a dark art, for instance, you could usually get Simply Mepis working. And MX Linux is sort of the child of Simply Mepis and also Antix, and that's where the M and the X come from, that make it MX. So it's got quite a long ancestry. It's been around for a while. And I haven't looked at the latest release, but the reviews I have seen seem to suggest that it's a cracking distro. Now, as you're probably aware, it's floating high on Distro Watch at number 1. All that means is it's getting high page hits. It shouldn't be taken as an indication of its user base, because we all know realistically that Ubuntu is probably the most used distro out there. Nevertheless, it's certainly popular. It's great for new starters because it's so user-friendly, but it's not a new starter distro on its own. I would be more than happy running MX Linux as an option if I was still in my distro hopping phase, which thank goodness I'm long gone now. But anyway, without further ado, let's boot into the live ISO and see where we're up to. So here we are at the MX Linux 21.1 Wildflower desktop. So this is the live ISO. It's booted without a problem straight into full HD, 1920 by 1080. And we're greeted by the welcome screen and, yeah, very summery wallpaper, quite pleasant, quite calm. So initial thoughts as soon as I see this, and it's a long time since I've seen MX Linux, I don't know why, but it's showing the time as 0721. It's actually 12:21 here, so obviously something going on with the time zone there, but this is just the live ISO, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I have to say, out of preference, and it's a minor thing, I personally don't like my panel in this configuration where it's stuffed to the left-hand side. I'd rather have it at the top, but all of that's configurable, so it's neither here nor there. So let's get on and double-click the installer. The installer won't launch because it appears to... I think that's probably because I clicked it twice. Right, so let's have a look. It's always quite nice when I see an installer which isn't Calamaris or Ubiquity. This installer looks exactly the same to me, or it has the same look and feel as the old Mepis Linux, which I did use for quite a number of years back in the day. So let's work our way through it and see whether or not it makes sense. So I'm going to look for UK English, variants. Yeah, we just want the standard there. So I'll click OK. And I'll get rid of the US variant. A few people have asked, is there a big difference between the US and the GB variant? Well, it's bits and pieces, really. It's things like, the speech marks and the character and the pipe character are all in different places. So I always change it anyway. Let's hit next. Use disk. Well, there is only one disk in here. It's a virtual disk. It gives me the option to encrypt it right out of the box, which is good. Do I want to customize the disk layout? No, do you know what? I'm just going to go with whatever the defaults offer me. So, okay to format? Yeah. And it's doing what it does. Where do I want to install Grub? Well, I've just installed in the standard BIOS mode, so MBR is good for me. And I'll click next. What do we want to call it? Well, MX is good. Example.dom for the computer domain. Doesn't really matter. Samba is ticked already. I mean, hey, let's just leave it and click next. So locale. So let's click UK. Time zone. Well, we want Europe and we want London. Here in the UK, we really only have one time zone. System clock uses local time. Yeah, what the heck? And format. Let's just leave it at 24-hour format. Service settings. Let's have a look. Okay, so it's just listing here the various services. I'm just going to leave that everything as default and click next. Right, so default user login name. So let's go for OTB. Oh dear, my typing isn't really playing up to what it should be. I'll put in my password as usual. All good. Do we want an administrator account, root account? Yes, we do. And I'm going to set the password. I probably shouldn't do it this way, but I always say set the same password for myself and root. I don't want auto login. Do I want to save live desktop changes? Not really. Click next. Right, so we're just waiting for it to finish installing. So I'll just pause this until it's done. Right, we're done. And let me tell you what I really like about this installer. With Calamaris and the like, you're having to go through the process of setting up your user and everything else before you finally start the process. This installer starts the installation pretty much as soon as you've gone through the partitioning stage. So you're not messing about waiting. You're continuing to put in details such as your username, and in between, it's getting on just doing the installation. So we're all finished now in next to no time. And I see that during that period, the time has now changed, and we're now on 12:28, which is actually correct. So do I want to automatically reboot? No, I don't in this instance. I'm going to close it down. I'm going to reboot the install system. I'm going to run the updates, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. So that was absolutely painless, which is what you'd want to see really with any Linux installation. And what you're looking at now is the installed version of MX Linux. Really quick install, no issues whatsoever. And I rebooted, and you can see what you can see. I did reboot first, and I did a full upgrade. There was quite a few packages to upgrade, but there was no problem. It has a little updater icon here, which showed me which updates were available. And it was really pretty simple, to be honest. And you can see that I have a welcome screen in front of me. And on the welcome screen, you have some important links. Now, one of the reasons that, although I will use desktop environments as opposed to window managers on occasion, one of the reasons that I tend to stick with Mate or XFCE is I really like the look and feel of GTK applications, and I really dislike the look and feel of Qt. It's just a personal preference. It's about aesthetics for me, nothing else. But this is clearly GTK, and you will either love it or you will loathe it. But let's go through this kind of welcome screen. You've got a link to the FAQ in the user's manual, which are also included on the desktop. So if I click on FAQ, it's going to open up a PDF document. Always good to see actually some sort of hard copy, which will answer all of your questions, common questions that you might have. That's brilliant. And more importantly, perhaps especially for new users, there's a user's manual. You don't see this with a lot of distros, but it takes you through everything: installation, configuration, etc., etc. I think that is great. And to be honest, I think it's things like that that give a distro, especially one that attracts new users, not that it's just for new users. I mean, anyone can use this, and it doesn't really matter on your level of experience, but it is great for new users because it's friendly. So you've got a hard copy of your FAQ, a hard copy of the user's manual. You've also got a link to the wiki, which I presume is just going to go and open up in Firefox in a second. And yes, it is. So let's start browsing. And it's going to take me to the MX Linux wiki, which is great. Quite colourful these days. It's looking a lot brighter than I remember in the past. We then have a link to the specialized MX tools. Now, you've obviously got, like all XFCE systems, you've got the standard XFCE settings, which are here, with a link there to MX tools anyway and MX tweak. But here are just the MX tools. And again, this is quite similar to how I remember Mepis being, that they provided a whole selection of additional tools that weren't kind of default with the window manager. So you've got a live USB maker there. You've got the ability to take a snapshot. Let's just see what that is. And it looks to be a custom tool, which is great for backups. Let's just cancel that. A chroot rescue scan. A disk manager. I wonder if the disk manager is just G-parted. Let's have a look. I'm assuming it might be. No, it isn't. It's, I don't know what it is, to be honest, but about. Let's have a look at about. Yeah, it's just called disk manager. Maybe that's a GNOME thing. Boot options. Okay, so that saves going into etc default grub. You can set up your various bits and pieces here. including setting up your own custom background, which is quite nice. You've got boot repair, you've got cleanup. Again, I'm thinking, is this a custom tool? And yes, it looks like it is a custom tool. And it gives you the option there to clean your thumbnail cache, your cache overall, old files, all files, logs, trash. Very nice. Disk usage analyzer and list and select kernels to remove. Useful. There's a menu editor, a Samba config if you use that, and a user manager. About MX Linux. Okay, so it just tells you which version, when it's supported until, and it gives you a little bit of information about your system there. So that's great. And then you have a link. Where are we? I've got two of these open now for some reason. There we go. Shutting that down brings this back up again. You've got your bash config. Not sure what that is until I look at it, and I can see automatically this is clearly a graphical way of adding aliases, which is very nice. You've got various ways of adding a custom prompt there, and your executable paths. In other words, you can add in extra paths for your path. Okay, all nice. An NVIDIA driver installer, a codex installer. Not quite sure what this is. Let's just see. The application allows you to install restricted codecs that permit advanced video and audio functions. Go for it. Do you assume legal responsibility for downloading these? Yeah, go on. And as you can see, libdvd CSS is installing there, which gives you the ability to play encrypted DVDs. Codecs have been downloaded and installed successfully. How easy could that be? You've got Conky there. Okay. I'm not the greatest fan of Conky, I've got to be honest. However, that's fairly subtle, just the date and hard disk space percentage, memory percentage, and CPU percentage there. Let me just see if I can run a terminal here and see if it's got HTOP installed. Yes, it has, and it's running at 665 megs, which isn't bad, to be honest. It's not bad at all. So let's close the window. Date and time, network assistant, system sounds, a tour. You can put a little brightness icon in your system tray. And there is also a little icon there that'll take you to their tweak tool. I've not seen an XFCE tweak tool before, so this is quite nice. So display panel horizontally and put it on the top. So this is what I used when I first booted into it. I didn't like the panel down here on the left, so I have it on the top. And it was simplicity itself to put it that way. Like everything with Linux, it doesn't really matter what the theming's like to start off with. You tailor the theming to suit yourself. We have a whole section here on theming as well. So application, window manager, icons that you want to use. So that's really nice and straightforward. The compositor you want to use, the display resolution and GTK scaling. Configuration options. Do I want to enable single click? Actually, I don't want to enable single click. I prefer double click, but that's all good. And other, enable a kernel sandbox, reset light DM, enable mounting of internal drives by non-root users. You know, these are all nice little add-ons. There's nothing in this MX Tools GUI that you couldn't do on the terminal. Let's be honest about that. But it enables you to do these things quickly with a couple of clicks. And personally, even as a very experienced Linux user, I appreciate this. I think this is great. It just makes life so much easier. I have looked at MX a few times, over the years, but not for a while now. And certainly if I was going to run a Debian system, this would be one of the distros that I would certainly look at. So, other than that, you've got links on this welcome screen to the forum, videos, popular apps, a tour. Let's see what popular apps is about. Okay, so it's like a little package manager, the stable repo, what's in there, and what's upgradable. Okay, the test repo, which you can use if you want, Debian backports, flatpaks. It includes this repository of flatpaks for the user's convenience only and is not right. Okay, fine. I'm going to cancel that. I don't want to use flatpaks really. But you've got just a little. It's it's a little bit like Synaptic. And I believe you have Synaptic here as well. So let's just verify that. Yes, you do. And maybe it's me and I'm old school, but I've always liked the Synaptic Package Manager. I've always found it easy if I'm going to use a GUI to install apps and search for them, and here it is by default. So you seem to have many different ways to tweak this system and also install applications. I'm just going to close that now. And you have a package manager here that will automatically notify you of updates. It had a lot of updates to install when I first booted into the system, but took a couple of minutes and it was all done. Let's have a look at wallpaper. And we can see the wallpaper section has filled up a little bit. And what have we actually got here? So we've got quite a few nice ones. I think out of preference, I would probably go for something like that, which is quite colourful. That's nice. And let's just have a look at what sort of theme we've got installed and icons. Do we have a dark theme? Let's have a look here. Let's go to the appearance section. We've got Arc Dark, which is always a favourite of mine. And what about the icons? Yeah, I like Papyrus and I quite like the Tango icons, but okay, there we go. I see it's got borders around the windows as well, which I'm a bit of a fan of. I know I'm being a bit gushy about this, but I'm liking what I see at the moment. I really am. So let's just have a look at what it comes installed with. So accessories, so all the normal stuff, Catfish file search, Featherbed, the lightweight text editor, device mounting tool, inner GUI, which is nice, Midnight Commander file manager, there's an old one. Anything else there? You've got your task manager, Thunar file manager, and XF Burn for anybody who's still working with a DVD player. Development, you've got Genie already installed. A few games there, including Mahjong. Don't appear to have the GIMP there, but obviously you're running Debian. You can install that very easily. Firefox is installed by default along with Thunderbird and Transmission, 3 applications I use all the time. The GNOME dial-up tool, well, there's a blast from the past, but if people have very old hardware, you might still be using that. What about Multimedia. So you've got a CD ripper there. Clementine is obviously going to be the main one. VLC and webcamoid. I haven't got a webcam on this virtual machine, but clearly could be useful. You've got a link to all of your MX tools there. You've got all of LibreOffice installed, and then, of course, your settings. And last but not least, you've got your system menu with time shift there for backups. I've not got a lot more to say about this, really. It's a very smart XFCE system. If you prefer KDE, there's a version of MX in we uses KDE Plasma. If you prefer that, if you prefer something much lighter weight, they do a Fluxbox edition. Hey, it's all good. It's a long time since I've looked at this. It's a long time since I've looked at a Debian-based distro. I like the fact that it's Debian-based. You see far too many distros now that are Ubuntu-based. There's nothing wrong with using the Debian repos, and I'm pleased to see that this is doing just that. Yeah, it's riding number one at Distro Watch, for the majority of the time, and it clearly is there for a reason. So, well done, guys. A great distro. Keep it going. Let's have a chat. Right, so that's MX Linux. Do you know, I can't think of anything that I want to say about MX to criticize it in any way. I think it's a great distro. It's been a really good distro for a long time, and I think it's a great choice for anybody who likes a Debian-based distro, but perhaps doesn't want to necessarily put themselves to the task of configuring everything themselves, and quite enjoys and appreciates, the GUI-based configuration tools that MX bundles. Brilliant distro. I'd recommend it to anyone. Right, so let's come back to the bike. As you know, I have or had a Royal Enfield Interceptor, and I bought it 12 months ago after 30 odd years of not riding a bike, and it certainly enabled me to get back in the saddle, so to speak, and to get used to biking again. And the Royal Enfield Interceptor is a brilliant bike for the little country roads around where I live in Lancashire, and it's more than powerful enough for what you need. But it did have a drawback. It's not a motorway machine. I've taken it on the motorway a few times, and you just get blown all over the place. I just didn't feel safe on the motorway. And I have family down in Coventry, 150 miles away, and even further based in Bristol. And I do want to use a bike to, travel those distances, 200 or 300 miles plus. So a week ago, I sold my Interceptor. I'd have kept it, but I can't afford to run two bikes. And I've bought myself a 2018 BMW R1200 RT, which is due to be delivered this coming Tuesday. Hence the reason I find myself without a bike at the moment. So in the coming weeks, I'm no doubt going to be introducing you to that. And I want to try and I'm going to do a bit of an experiment. I'm going to sort of try and combine my interest in biking with my interest in Linux. And I've got myself a used GoPro and a mount for my helmet and all the audio stuff and everything that I need. And I'm going to have a go at doing Linux blogs whilst I'm on the road, whilst I'm riding the bike. Whether that's going to work or not, I don't know. But give me a few weeks to get everything set up and get to this new bike, and I will release something, and we'll see whether or not it works. I don't know whether it will or not at this stage, but just an interesting route to go. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you for another video when it rains, probably, or when I produce the Linux combined with a moto vlog video. I'm not sure when that will be as yet, but hopefully not too long. In the meantime, I'd like to thank everybody, including obviously my patrons. I have suspended Patron payments for this summer as videos are going to be quite limited. But thanks for the support anyway, guys. And I'll see you when I see you. Cheers, everyone.